You know that sinking feeling when everyone swears that your favorite coin is toast, and you're pretty sure that they're wrong. So picture this. You wake up, scroll through your feed, and every loud voice on Crypto X is yelling, XRP is dead. Bury it next to dial-up internet. But something in your gut whispers, nah, something big is brewing. Well, stick around, because by the end of this story, you might look at that under-the-radar token in a totally new way, and maybe even check your own wallet in a slight panic to see how much you actually hold. Okay, quick roadmap for today before we dive in. I'm going to tell you why a guy named John Squire, think of him as that friend who always calls the next hit show before Netflix even buys the rights, says that XRP is the biggest sleeping giant in crypto. We're going to peel apart his claim one by one, peek at the numbers hiding in plain sight, and I'll share the weird moment when I realized he might be right. By the end, you're going to know whether to shrug off XRP or run a victory lap because you just bought some back, when your cousin called it digital dead weight. And hey, if at any point you're itching to swap these kind of theories in real time, well, the link to our free crypto Discord server is chilling in the description down below. Hop in, seriously, the memes alone are worth it. So let's rewind a couple of mornings ago, right? I'm half awake, nursing coffee, and doom scrolling like the responsible adult that I am, when Squire drops an X thread longer than the receipt after you grab just a few things at Costco. Now, his opener, XRP, isn't dead, it's loading. Right? It's pretty bold. Sure. But the sleeping kind of brain perks up, because loading suggests something bigger than the usual kind of hopium tweets. He claims 99% of investors aren't ready for what comes next. 99%. Basically, he's saying that the crypto crowd is that person who left the movie theater before the post-credit scene. And you and I are about to watch that scene together. First claim on the table, a decade of real-world building. Unlike shiny new meme coins that moon for 48 hours then vanish like last week's TikTok trend, Ripple has been hammering away at global payment rails for 10 straight years. They're now live in over 55 countries with 350 plus financial institutions. So picture that network as airline routes. If Bitcoin is the first ever transatlantic flight, amazing but kinda slow, Ripple's trying to be the all-encompassing airline alliance with lounges everywhere. That's Japan's SBI on board, Tranglo in Asia on board, right? The tracks are down, passengers are boarding, the conductor's just waiting for someone to blow the whistle. Next, Squire reminds us of XRP's slugfest with the SEC. December 2020, the lawsuit bell rings. July 2023, XRP lands a partial legal W. Now in 2025, we're allegedly inches from a full settlement. It's kind of like watching a boxing saga that started on pay-per-view, went 9 grueling rounds, and the judges' scorecards are about to flash. Now, Squire's point is simple. Surviving the SEC is the crypto equivalent of getting roasted by Gordon Ramsay and still opening a sold-out restaurant. Investor confidence goes way up when regulators finally say, fine, you can operate. Then he drops the heavy hitter. Institutional floodgates. Picture Wall Street suits creeping into the crypto pool, toes first. Last month, Coinbase quietly launched an XRP futures product. Now, CME Group, yes, the same CME your uncle references when he brags about trading commodities since back in the day, is slated to unleash XRP futures on May 19th. Now that's not a garage band, that's Madison Square Garden booking the show, right? Futures means big money hedging, and hedging means big money interest, right? And if rumors of a kind of BlackRock XRP trust are even 10% real, well, remember how spot Bitcoin ETFs flipped the entire market mood overnight? But this isn't about an ETF cameo. Ripple's playground is a $150 trillion cross-border payments market that could bloom to $300 trillion by decade's end. Now let that sink in, right? We toss trillions around like confetti, but imagine stacking $1 billion on your kitchen table. Then do that 150 million times over. Now that's the sandbox XRP wants to own the shovel in. Now they're already live in Singapore, the UAE, half of Southeast Asia. Now Squire suggests giants like Bank of America and Standard Chartered have more than just an observer seat, if you will. And if that is true, well, Ripple's not pitching a prototype. They're adding finishing touches to a money superhighway that already ships value while most projects are still fixing potholes. Now, let's talk price. Because if you're anything like me, you've kind of side-eyed XRP's stubborn chart and muttered, do something. Now, Squire calls the boring price action intentional, which is a spicy take, right? Because he points to on-chain data, volume quietly climbing, RSI cooling, whales nibbling when everyone else is staring at 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘 memes, right? It's like those slow monopoly players building up cheap properties while you're busy counting your colorful bills. Then suddenly they slap 4 hotels on Boardwalk and the game flips. Right? Smart money moves in silence, loud money tweets. Here's where my own aha moment hit. I went digging through exchanges and noticed a kid, and I kid you not, right? Limit orders thick as peanut butter around the $2 mark. Now either someone's defending that price harder than a toddler guards their snacks, or a lot of people truly believe that $2 is the launch pad. And remember, right, we're talking about a token that flirted with $3.80 back in 2018 and maybe 10% of today's infrastructure, or at least with 10% of today's infrastructure, and zero regulatory clarity, right? Math, it is not emotional, right? More rails plus less legal fog usually equals a fatter price candle. But wait, there's friction, right? The biggest challenge that Squire identifies, and I totally agree with this, is perception, right? XRP has haters the way that pineapple pizza has haters, right? Some people refuse to touch it because they still think Ripple bad, centralization evil, ignoring the updates. Now that negativity, Squire argues, is cheap fuel for the next move. Right? Every slam tweet is like tossing logs on a campfire, right? The flames get higher, volatility grows, marshmallows get toasted. Let's unpack the perception problem a little bit, right? Most of crypto worships decentralization purity. XRP lives in a hybrid space, centralized vision, decentralized ledger. People holds a kind of, or at least Ripple holds a significant stash of XRP, right? Validators are fewer than Bitcoins. So to purists, that's kind of not ideal, right? To institutions, that's actually comfort, right? They don't want Wild West chaos. They want guardrails, they want dashboards, they want phone support. XRP offers a bit of both worlds. Enough decentralization to satisfy, cryptography nerds, enough corporate kind of polish to let banks sleep at night. And that's why Ripple can walk into a conference room at Santander and not get laughed out of the door. It's kind of the Trojan horse of crypto adoption, right? Except everyone sees the horse. They just can't agree whether it's a gift or a gimmick. Now, add legal clarity. Once the SEC stamps a not a security in final ink, well, every compliance department that's kind of been sitting on the sidelines suddenly has a green light. Imagine rows of dominoes lined up since 2020, futures, ETFs, custody solutions, remittance corridors. A settlement flicks the first domino, the rest kind of topple in a chain reaction faster than you can refresh coin market cap. That's why Square's loading metaphor kind of lands, right? The shell casing is in the kind of chamber here, fingers on the trigger, and we're one legal press conference away from a bang. At this point, you're probably wondering, isn't this just pure hopium? And that's fair. So let's talk about the numbers then. RippleNet processes $18 billion in volume last year. It's tiny versus Visa, right? Huge versus most blockchains. Now, their corridor between Japan and the Philippines cut transfers fees by up to 70% for workers sending money home. Real people saved rent money, not just traders chasing candles. In the UAE, a bank used XRP to settle cross-border payroll for construction crews, shaving settlement time from 2 days to 2 seconds. When tech solves problems, it stops being a slogan and starts being Tuesday afternoon. Adoption kind of sticks. And here is the wildest stat that I found. Even after the lawsuit gloom, daily active XRP addresses have climbed 40% year over year. Now that's like a restaurant getting a health code warning and somehow doubling reservations. People's vote with their wallets, literally. But let's hit the climax here, the pivotal moment that Squire and frankly I see coming. Right, May 19th is circled in red for the at least on institutional calendars, right? Now once CME opens those futures, hedge funds that couldn't touch offshore derivatives for regulatory reasons can finally take positions. Liquidity kind of begets liquidity. Prices on spot exchanges react to futures demand. Arbitrage bots go nuts. Retail FOMO tweets start trending. Now, we saw the script with Bitcoin in 2017 and with Ether options in 2020. Futures, they aren't magic, but they are rocket fuel if the engine is ready. Combine that with the potential BlackRock trust. Note, still a rumor, but BlackRock doesn't sneeze without filing paperwork first. Plus a settlement headline dropping any day, and you've kind of got what traders call confluence. Now, 3 river currents slamming together to form one roaring waterfall. Stand too close and you're going to get soaked. Position a hydro plant and you kind of harness some serious power. So, where does this leave regular people? Maybe you bought XRP at 30 cents and sold at $1 because TikTok told you that the party was over. Maybe you missed the 2017 run and swore never to chase green candles again. Or maybe you're brand new and you don't own a single drop. Squire's message, and mine, after kind of staring down at the data, is quite simple. Don't let boredom fool you. Sideways price might be the mask that smart money hides behind. The real show often starts the minute that retail loses patience. Okay, so let me tell you a quick personal side story here. Back in 2019, I ignored Chainlink at 50 cents because everyone mocked its memes. Fast forward, Link hits $52 and I'm sweating like a gamer who forgot to save progress. The lessons learned, right? The market loves to bore you right before it humbles you. XRP could pull the same stunt. Maybe it won't, but the signals are kind of eerily similar. Quiet accumulation, rising addressing counts, big dog institutions sniffing around. All right, big breath. We've covered a decade of infrastructure, courtroom saga, bank adoption rates, futures, fireworks, and even pineapple pizza slander. If Squire's thread is a trailer, right, we just watched the full feature film, right? Whether you believe XRP is about to explode or implode, at least now you have the popcorn, the soda, and a seat near the aisle in case you need to sprint to an exchange. And here is my honest takeaway. XRP might still face some stiff headwinds, competition from stellar, central bank digital currencies, or simply another regulatory curveball. But battle scars can become bragging rights. Surviving the SEC could morph from stigma into stamp of approval. And if even half of those alleged Ripple partnerships are quietly transacting millions a day, well, price will catch up sooner or later. Markets can ignore fundamentals for years, but they can rarely ignore them forever. So, next time that you see a tweet dunking on XRP, maybe ask yourself, is that noise or is that the whistle blowing just before the chain leaves the station? Because if Squire is right, we might all look back and realize the train was loading the whole time. Doors open, engine humming, and most people were distracted arguing over seat numbers.